So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for participating in this. I've been looking forward to this. My name is Jim Love. Pronouns he, him. I'm the CIO of IT World Canada. And, one of the things I was most grateful for when my daughter came out to us at age 14 was we were part of a rich community. And we had lots of friends who could share their life experience with her and with us. So when the opportunity came to host this panel, I was honored. That's all I can say, and honored to have such a distinguished group who are willing not to share only their professional lives, but their personal experiences as well. So welcome to all four of you. I'm just going to start. Jose, would you like to start just by introducing yourself?
Sure. I'm Jose Nasif-Dra. I'm actually recording today from Buenos Aires. I had to fly to Argentina last week. I'm the VP of IT within Centera Gold. And anyway, very happy to be here.
I'm Zoe Knox. I'm the Vice President of Engineering for the OpenNMS Group. We make open source network monitoring software. And most of my job is, herding all of the cats in generally the right direction, which is the favorite part. I live in Ottawa, and I'm happy to be here.
Rachel?
Yeah, hi, my name is Rachel Clark. I'm a Senior Information Security Analyst with TD Bank Group. Most of my job every day is writing machine learning code for cybersecurity analytics, and it's just a real pleasure to be here today.
My name is Sachin Agarwal. I'm the CEO of Think Research. We're a digital health company. We recently went public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the Venture Exchange, just a few months ago, and pleased to be here.
We don't have anywhere near enough time. I'm already listening to all the places you're coming from and going, there's so many questions I want to ask you about work and other stuff too. But so we'll do this panel, but we're gonna have to get this group back together again. I want to start out with some of the milestones of your career, and I think and obviously in celebration of Pride, we're talking about coming out in there. Was there particular milestones in your coming out journey that you'd like to highlight or talk about?
I started in law, and in law, it's a relatively welcoming part of the corporate community to be out. So I started as an out man. And so I haven't had, milestones within my career. In fact, my milestones are yet to come. Now, as the CEO of a public company, I've got milestones coming up with my partner and I being engaged now, having a child on the way, doing that as a gay couple. In the corporate community, that's going to be exciting. So I think my major ones are yet to come.
Cool. Yeah. Zoe?
I've been relatively fortunate as well in that, my whole coming out transition has been really smooth, and people generally have been really accepting and open, which I think is really a Canadian strength in some ways. When I came out, they actually threw me a party at work, which was really fun. Another big milestone that I like to honor is when I got my first job as an openly queer woman, and subsequently the promotion to VP. So those are the big milestones, I think, so far for me.
Jose?
I started my career with ExxonMobil. I was with them for a few years, and I was not out, but I was not out either. So, that was here in Buenos Aires, and I lived, quite freely here. Fortunately, Argentina is quite open, but it was still that not being out was it always made some noise, in the back of my mind. And so once I decided to move to North America, I decided to just be very straightforward and talk as open as possible and be like, hey, I can't start next week because I'm getting married and my husband and I ex. And so as natural and as open as possible, but I wanted to make sure that I was coming into a company that was completely accepting.
Rachel?
Yeah, so for me, the experience was a little bit different. Prior to coming out, I had some pretty senior roles, including C-suite roles in technology, running some pretty large IT departments. And my idea was that I would come out during a period of transition, not just for myself, of course, but also in the workplace. So between jobs, I thought it would be easier to just not come out in the workplace and come out between jobs. And of course, at that time I had 20 years of a really great IT career, and saying, of course, I'm going to come out and people are just going to accept me. And really what happened was I came out and I wasn't accepted. And, I spent really an 18-month period of having no income at all. And so kind of went through this whole stage of losing everything and having to start my career over again, and it's been, difficult to navigate, starting from the beginning and working through that again. And, but all those skills I still had all of those skills. So I think it's changing and it's getting better. I mean, Zoe's story is really heartwarming for me. I love that. But, we also need to know that it hasn't always been this way. And, rebuilding a career is difficult for some trans people. And I really want to celebrate what's happening to Zoe and, move forward with that,
Yeah, we hope we can get to a place where there'll only be happy stories. Is there any advice that you would give to people who are in the process of coming out or have not yet? Or is there anything that you would want to say to them?
I had the same fears that, what happened to Rachel would be my story as well, right? That I would lose the job, that, I would lose all my contacts and have to start over. Thankfully, that's not what happened. But I guess the advice I can give to people is know your value. Remember that you are the same person who did all these great things in the past. And people will definitely be surprised when you come out to them, maybe uncomfortable, because you're shifting a lot of unconscious assumptions that they've made about you over the years, right? And they are going to have to kind of reframe that stuff in their own mind. But give it time, keep being awesome. And I think most people generally get over it and will be accepting and supportive.
Sachin, do you want to? I thought you looked like you were agreeing and there nodding.
People have to go through their own journey. So number one, make sure you take care of your own mental health, right? Do it at a time when you're ready to do it. Try to have friends or allies outside of the workplace that you can confide in, that you can speak to about the process. And then number three, try to see if you can find some allies in the workplace, right? Some folks that you're comfortable with or that will be accepting.
Jose?
It's important to be true to yourself and respect that, and just go to places where you're adding value as a whole, not as a half. Leaving part of who you are at home doesn't work ultimately. Somehow it always just creates internally things like kind of anxiety and depression and everything else that you don't really want to go down that path. But I know that it's easier said than done sometimes, but that would be my view, I guess.
Rachel, anything to add to that? Or
people have come out to me and asked for that advice is, take advantage of every single thing you can to be supported through that process, because it's not the easiest thing in the world. And, the more support you have, the better off you'll be.
And even those of us who want to be great allies and great friends, we stumble too. A friend of mine called me and his best friend came out to him as a trans woman, and he called me to say, what do I say or do? And I said, ask her. And that's what I want to do for all of you is to ask you, what is the advice you'd give to people who want to be your friend and want to be supportive? What can we do?
I think in terms of the trans community, it's really important for people to know that they really have to do the work. Part of that is doing some research into what trans experiences are like. And then, when you come to me with this knowledge and having a basic understanding of the trans community, then I'm happy to sit down and tell you in other ways that you can be an ally to me. And, it starts with support and listening.
Your work colleague, your now out work colleague, has to keep coming out, because I'll go into a banking relationship or a banking meeting or a third party supplier or any lunch or dinner meet, whatever the case may be, and I'll get asked about my am I married, what's her name, and so on and so forth. I've got to come out again and again and again and again and again. a piece of advice is to recognize and support us through that, laughing with us every time we have to do it, being supportive every time we have to do it, and just recognizing that it doesn't stop for us.
I have a fun story. I remember going to lunch with a software company, pretty large software company. They are asking why did you come here? And then I go and I'm like, well, so my husband and I X, and one of the guys anyways, goes like, you mean your wife? And it's all good. Of course, I'm Argentinian. I speak Spanish as my first language, but I think I can follow a pretty good conversation in English. So if I meant husband, that's exactly what I meant, right? And so I called him out on it. I was like, no, I mean husband. And anyway, it resonated so much with this company that ultimately they even brought it in their global sales speech to talk about what had happened. So not to do it again, do not correct your customers, right? So I thought that was funny.
A good lesson in all, do not correct your customer. Yeah, good idea. Yeah.
I think as an ally, you're often in situations with people who will say things around you that they would never say around us. If you want to be a good ally, when you hear somebody saying homophobic or transphobic or just generally anything nasty, put a stop to it. That's how you can be a good ally.
What things have people done that have really worked well in terms of helping you in your journey, helping you come out, or helping support you?
For a workplace in general, I think it's important that you put diversity at the foundation. You've got to make it a part of your hiring strategy. You got to make it clear to everybody in the organization the importance of diversity and the fact that you're hiring on the basis of it. That means that everybody who is a part of the hiring process explicitly needs to consider that. That helps people who are not out to feel comfortable during the hiring process, but it also makes it clear to those who already work at the organization that this is something that is a priority for us.
I felt incredibly supported because, there's been a focus put on the trans community in my workplace. And, we were one of the very first organizations who gave extended benefits medically for trans people. And that's really, really important, that the organizations place the focus on those who have the biggest need that represent the least amount of people. I, really believe that that's what any diversity initiative should do is, the number of trans people is irrelevant to doing what's right and doing what's really good for the community.
Thinking about what Sachin had said about the diversity piece. And I think that ultimately it's important to understand that first is doing what is right, but at the same time, for companies, it's really affecting the bottom line. I think diversity, and not just from an LGBTQ, it's also about women, age, race, First Nations and everything else, is really bringing diversity of thought. And so the way that you tackle issues within the organization, ultimately even a good business to be diverse.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, diversity of people, diversity of opinions, diversity of ideas, and just having a human workplace. It was the 1990s. I was working for Ernst & Young, and my Aboriginal family, and one of the partners made a joke about Aboriginals. And I walked out of the meeting. I thought I'd lost my job. And one of the partners came at me and said, just let us handle this. This should never have happened. And I think that's something we all in a workplace, for everyone, need to be able to reach out and say, this isn't happening here.
My perspective is that, culture comes from the top, right? It's set by leadership. And I really like what Sachin said about having diversity and inclusion as a foundation of the company, right? I think that's really important to really set that expectation among everyone. Some of the things I think that have worked really well in my experience are, inclusive language is really important. It's not just, talking the talk when you go out and celebrate Pride Month and put up rainbow flags around the company, but really making those fundamental changes to things like forms that don't just say M or F. That when you end meetings, you're not just saying, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, stuff like that. There's all these very small things asking people's pronouns before you assume. It's really that really fundamental small stuff, everyday stuff that I think makes an environment really inclusive for everyone.
It's also important to have people that you can look up to, a few people that can be highlighted in the organization who are out, who are allies and who are visible, makes it easier for others who may not be out or who may be on that journey, and so, you know, certainly encourage every workplace to do so if they have someone who is willing to be that shining light for others.
Thank you so much. This has been great. I once again, I'm honored, and I'm so glad you've shared your time with us. And happy Pride Month and happy lives to all of you.
Yeah, happy Pride.
Thanks very much. Happy Pride.